Because without data, you could only do so much with AI. There's tremendous amount of opportunity still in Southeast Asia, in Thailand in particular. And there are great teams working on great new tech that are very excited to try out with a number of new customers. And I think we're on a very exciting pathway towards digital transformation, not just in corporates, but also on the ground. And we're starting that with ViaLink today.
Techsauce, sparking innovative thoughts. Hello, you're listening to the latest episode of Techsauce Global Podcast, a podcast series by Techsauce that aims to inspire you with the latest innovation in the world. I'm Chawarat Yongjiradonor Pupe, a global content editor at Techsauce and your host. Artificial intelligence, or AI, has definitely become a buzzword over the past year. So it is no surprise that it's getting a lot of attention in all industries. Today, we take a look at how AI is being leveraged in the supply and logistics industry. With us is Dr. Napat Sibitak, the co-founder and CEO of ViaLink, a deep tech supply chain commerce startup that aims to build next-gen cloud-based tech infrastructure to move physical goods and services from point to point more efficiently and sustainably. It is a leading B2B commerce platform in helping businesses realize their untapped potential by bringing together players and services that are enhanced by advanced data technologies and AI. Hello, Dr. Napat.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, first of all, of giving your time to us, for this episode, because I think it's a very interesting topic that a lot of people really are curious about because of the potential in the technology. First off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your product and solution?
Yeah, sure thing. It's great to be here. So my name is Napat. I'm technically an economist, but I jumped into the field of big data and AI about 8 to 10 years ago. Definitely saw a huge opportunity to use this new data technology to change the way or improve the way that commerce is done. We're based in Thailand, and so we saw tremendous amount of work still being manually done, or even just starting to get computers into the mix of like moving goods like on the ground. And so I decided to partner up with my co-founder to build ViaLink to make commerce flow much more efficiently, and also unlocking a ton more business value for everyone involved in the supply chain industry. And this is huge. I'm talking about almost every single thing that you see on a daily basis, goods that you order online, goods that you see in the department stores or in convenience stores. For us, it means the world to us that we could use. We're like a bunch of geeks and nerds who are really into data science, and it always bugged us, that we always do stuff like with just like office work, like machine learning stuff or like office work. But when we saw the what's happening on the ground, like the drivers, the pick packers, the people in the factories, it almost seemed to us that none of the digitalization happened to them. And so we were like, oh, this is huge. This is something that we should definitely embark on. And that's what we did about a year and a half ago. Yeah.
I think that the timing is very good as well, because there's such a buzz about AI. I mean, at the beginning, it was, as you said, it was more like corporate, but now with the pain point that you've spotted out, it's definitely got a lot of potential. What are some specific applications of AI found in the logistics and supply chain industry right now?
Oh, there's almost every single junction in the supply chain can be, implemented. It can be enhanced AI and by data in general, because I think the way we look at this is there's definitely almost nothing being built in terms of data infrastructure. So we start from the ground up by building a much better data infra from the beginning, and then we build AI modules on top of that. And so there are some examples that are really key and are really painful to a lot of our customers. So one is determining how much to produce and from where and what types of sort of ingredients should they source from. It seems really basic, right? But it's actually not basic, because if you don't, optimize it, just 0.5% could mean millions, right? That you lose out or you win. So one is supply and production optimization. That's one aspect that AI could help. Another one is also quite painful and important, which is determining how much to stock and when should you send more products to stores, and how do you plan all of that, right? Again, a really simple, like bread and butter decision making sort of question, but it's super hard, especially if you get to a really large size and you have like thousands of stores and nodes that you have to like send stuff to, especially nowadays when consumers expect like full stock and no stock out and like delivery at home, pick up at store. It's going to be a mess if you don't have a kind of system to aid this sort of new type of commerce, right? So yeah, that was fulfillment and distribution. The last part would be logistics, which is something that I guess after COVID has taken off quite spectacularly. But it's also another thing that's not so easy to do, especially if the companies haven't been doing logistics long enough, and it can be really costly if you don't plan it well. And so this is where AI could come and help with, like handling complex set of constraints, like, these goods have to be there at this time of day. I cannot be there too late. It has to meet this kind of cost. It should be within this, kind of truck. The driver must be this good. You won't believe how many constraints there are in real life. So for the listeners that are into optimization and AI, so me and my co-founder, we went to grad school and we looked at all the books about optimization, but in reality, the number of constraints are tremendous. Like there's all kinds of stuff that you never see in the textbooks. And so we had a lot of fun trying to wrangle with these and deliver value to our clients. We can get into the details if you want.
Yeah. I guess it does vary in terms of the market that you're in and the country that you're in and the region that you're in, right? I mean, for example, Indonesia, that's probably like so hard. There's so many people have said in terms of logistics and everything. And yeah, you're right. In theory, it might look good, but then when you really do it, get your hand down on the work, it's difficult. I have a follow-up question that I'm curious about, because you mentioned that you started about a year or so ago. That's during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, obviously, the logistics and delivery system had to really progress fast, right? To meet up with the demand. But now that we're in the post-pandemic stage, do you see that speed of progress the same? Or do you think that there is a bit of a difference?
No, that's a good question. I think, if anything, it has gone way up since the pandemic. I think the pandemic was a shock to many shippers, many large scale shippers and small players. And a lot of them had to move fast, even without any kind of system to support logistics, as you said. And sometimes you notice really poor quality of service when you order fresh produce to your house from a company that never have done anything related to logistics, right? And now I think consumers adapted quite a lot, and they expected way more from these companies. And I think these consumers, like us, we also work in a company, and so even though ViaLink deals with mostly B2B clients, but it's the humans that have experienced COVID that are now working there, and they also expect better delivery service and quality of service. And I think this is a key difference post-pandemic. Right now, it's not just about having the best products to sell, but it's also the service. Like, can you deliver the products in a better manner than your competitors? So it's not just about cost or better products per se. It's also about the service that you present these products to your consumers. And so without any kind of tools, it's going to be hard to compete, especially if you're in like industry like food supplies. I think consumers are pretty much set on they need fresh, like really fresh produce at a really competitive rate and really good service. It's not just you show up with the goods and you just leave, say bye-bye. Sometimes you have to like cater to everything, track everything, the temperature and all that. Yeah.
Being time sensitive, and you mentioned that there is so much expectation. How can AI and automation improve that accuracy and the speed of route planning and optimization for logistics operations?
Yeah, so there's no magic to this. There's only mathematics to this whole thing, and I think part of the reason why this is still an opportunity in our point of view is that work on the ground is super rough. It's super like there's almost no IT infrastructure on the ground, and it's so key to the P&L of the businesses. So sometimes they don't want to change, and when they don't change, it's sort of stuck in time, right? But now with COVID, they want to improve it. They're starting to look for a solution to help, right? And AI can help. The way we look at it is we look at it from a wide frame instead of focusing only on logistics. You could break apart this question into different parts of the supply chain. We argue that in order to deliver well, you actually have to step back and optimize since production or since demand planning or fulfillment planning, because then you would know how much goods you need to store in strategic locations around the country, and then you can figure out how to best manage your fleet or outsource carriers to carry your goods to the destinations. So now let's just zoom in, right? Like demand planning, typically you use an old guy or gal who knows about the industry a lot, worked for 30 years.
Human-based.
Human-based. Typically these people are really good at predicting, but they're retiring. And sometimes you could predict pretty well nationally, but if you want to predict at each store, I think that's not a job of a human anymore. It seems to be more suitable for a machine to do. And I think we all know that machines can do reasonably well with forecasting. And that's like a pretty good technique that machine learning could do, where you use historical data and external data to help predict the demand of a product or a group of products at each point in time and place, right? But now the fun part is figuring out how to deliver, how to fulfill the needs of the customers with the lowest cost. And that's not simple at all. I think prediction is also really hard. I'm not trying to dumb it down by any means, but compared to, cost optimization, like full loop, right? Imagine with me that this is not like just doing it on your computer. This is like, you see a bunch of trucks, a bunch of contract workers, a bunch of roads that you may take or may not take. Do you drop product A first, or do you drop product B? Or do you not want to do it at all and then outsource the entire thing to another company with a different contract? So the way ViaLink does is we upload all the data about the cost structure of all these. And we also utilize, like route optimization engine that we wrote to figure out, this is not humans figuring it out. This is machine figuring it out. What's the best course of actions that would, yield the best objective, which sometimes is cost, sometimes it's not always cost. Sometimes it's like service quality, that has to be balanced. And so it's super flexible, and you could come up with solutions that would normally take humans like 6 hours, 4 hours of planning. Of course, there will be some companies where they're so expert at planning stuff where it could take only 2 hours. I've only seen one company in in my experience that have done that real well with Excel. But for most other shops, they don't have that kind of human capital. And even for people with really good experience, I think this is complementary. Like, you could use this to speed it up and then move the humans to do something else that has more value. And so, yeah, that's
so if you compare, I just have this image of the elder, the wise people who you said are aging out of the system, who know exactly how to do predictive maintenance. If you compare the human, process and the speed of it to AI, which what you're leveraging on, what are the key differences that we're seeing right now?
So just for logistics optimization alone, like not counting supply, production planning, and all that, we could save from anywhere from 10 to 15% of logistics costs. That's a lot. So typically, logistics cost is around 3% of revenue of a large company. It's not nothing. And to drive down roughly 10% of that, it adds up, right? So comparing even to an expert human, if the machine learning algorithm and the optimization suite was built correctly for a company, I think at the minimum is 10% reduction in cost, not counting, I think, other goodies like transparency and the ability to have visibility. Because most of the time when you don't have a system in place, you may get performance, right? Like if your workers are really good, you have experts, but you will not get visibility unless the owner or the shareholder visits the actual on-ground work. And so a lot of management, they don't even know what's going on. And with the system in place, at least they get a view that, oh, this is happening. This is what the projection of the cost would look like. Because this is not like, after COVID, there's so much volatility around businesses that sometimes relying on the past is not enough. And sometimes you may need to rely on the present and what's happening currently.
Yeah. Good point. You did say though that AI is kind of like not magic. there are limitations, right? And especially if you put it in terms of the different numerous challenges that you said that are on the ground. What are the limitations of AI in the logistics and supply chain industry, and what should organizations consider? Because I'm sure a lot of people who are listening are considering this. what should they think about when they decide to adopt AI solutions?
I think they should think about this as a digitalization, a digital transformation activity. I mean, you could frame this as AI, but I think at the core of it is the mindset that I want to do better and I want to change the way things are done. I think this is probably the most important thing for someone who wants to adopt this. This is not just another dashboard. This is life and blood of a company. And we take it really seriously because everyone who uses a ViaLink, they actually like trust us because it cannot break. Every single dime flows through us. And if it doesn't, it's core operation. So it really is important that, there's a culture or at least a mandate or a strong determination that we want to do things better, differently. That's the most important part. Another part is, I guess, is the emphasis on data, because without data, you could only do so much with AI. Nowadays, AI is getting smarter, right? Like with very little data, you can do a lot. But the way we look at supply chain, I think it still needs quite a lot of data feeds, like cost or like requirements from other clients, or the orders coming in, are they managed properly, or are they in like 10, 15 legacy systems? That's often the case for a lot of big companies, that they have more than 10 systems, but none of the systems talk to each other. So yeah, those are my two recommendations.
You also talked about how, things aren't the way that you see them at the very beginning. A lot of unanticipated challenges arise. And I just wanted to go back a little bit to the beginning of that question that I just posed to you in terms of the limitations of AI. What are the biggest things that people should look out for? I mean, you said, the realization, having that right mindset, also talking about data as well as being important. But in addition to this, what are the biggest concerns that you're facing right now in terms of the limitations of AI for you at this moment?
Well, I think it's like assuming that someone wants to adopt AI and, has all the resources and everything. I think it's making decisions on how to work with this new AI system efficiently alongside humans. It's true that in real life, there are more constraints and more requirements than it's even possible to solve. You probably have to wait for a quantum computer or something to be able to handle every single thing, right? And typically in the past, things get done because it's not optimal. A human expert made decisions that bypass some of these requirements or cut some slack here and there, and to still deliver the goods or sell the goods, which is fine. Same here with AI, right? If you have too high of an expectation that AI is going to solve all the constraints, it's not going to go anywhere. It's probably not the right way to look at it. The right way to look at it is to compare it with the scenario where you don't have AI or system, right? If it's better, then it's all good. That's my argument, that I think if you look at it this way, and the investment in the AI system isn't too great, I think it's win-win, right? And of course, there are some other benefits to this as well, which is on ethics. It could go both ways, right? I would say this is one of the less understood limitations of AI. It could be both limitations and benefits, actually.
On that point, can you talk a little bit about the potential risks and ethical considerations associated with AI in logistics and supply chain processes? Like data privacy, algorithmic bias, or decision transparency?
So AI is not all good. I think that should be clear. It's, at least right now, the way you see it, it has its own biases, and it typically has to do with the way a human expert builds it or sets it up. But again, it has benefits in the sense that you could make it into a transparent system, and it potentially could help with ethical concerns previously hidden in the supply chain system, especially when it comes to worker rights and workload balancing. I think workload balancing is probably the most common ethical sort of issues that you would see in the supply chain that has no data infrastructure because there's no evidence. And workload, sometimes you would see that a particular worker gets the same pay, but has to service a 100-story building, for example. It's totally unfair, right? Or sometimes one group of workers never get work, never get volume. And why is that? Nobody has a clue or the answer. But with a system in place, you could bake in a pretty, fair formula that would distribute or at least consider these issues openly, right? And so it all depends on how a human team sets this up and control how the process would work with AI and human together.
I'm so grateful in terms of how very straightforward you've been in our conversation in terms of the limitations and the realistic look into AI and its applications in the industry. But let's take a look at the positive sides in terms of the examples that have been successful. Can you tell us a little bit about some examples that you might have that you can think of in terms of organizations successfully implementing AI-driven solutions in logistics and supply?
Yeah. I think the most famous would be Amazon, and on the second point would be Walmart. I spent a lot of time in the US when Amazon totally, just killed out almost everyone. And then Walmart was falling behind. But now 10 years, 15 years later, I actually think Walmart is in a pretty good place in terms of how they ramped up their tech stack. If you check out what they invested in the past 10 years, I think they're in a really strong spot. Both delivering the, low price sort of value prop, but also making sure that they have good systems all around to support that. So I think these two cases are like classic cases where they've done great. Not even have to be these two, right? Like if you look at e-commerce players or online stores that can do like same day shipping guaranteed or really quick service to your door, it's actually impossible to do economically if they don't predict in advance what the demand would be, and you can run for so long, if you bleed with cost, but eventually you have to optimize, and a lot of these retailers utilize like next gen sort of modeling systems to help drive that results. But for our own tool, we're just starting out, but we already saw results for our clients. Like I said, 10-15% cost reduction. For supply and production planning, that is also something that affects the margins or the bottom line like right away. For a client that we just did, we just made them, I think more than 60% improvement in terms of profit.
Just 60%. That's a big improvement.
It's the same product, but the way they selected raw material and sourcing and deciding which factory to use for which order, their volume is huge. So making a better move, just a few more times, it's the numbers just shot up. It's something that people don't look at it often because it's so simple, right? Like you're producing A, and you have like 25 factories and contractors of shoes, and in different point in time have different pricing, right? Like different input prices. And if you choose it correctly, you could do a lot better than yesterday. So I think there are cases like this waiting to be discovered in the future. Yeah.
That's really exciting to hear. And you just started. For the future in Thailand, do you think that, our market can be as efficient as you see those, those really high standard processes in overseas with Walmart and Amazon?
I do have a vision that it would be way more smooth. I don't know when, but I'm betting that ViaLink will be an integral part of modern commerce at the very least, starting from Thailand, because it works. We've tried it with a number of our clients, and sometimes there's not even a need to click anything. Once an SKU depletes from a store or from a point in a country, it just automatically loads up new stuff, called out some carriers to come pick it up from the factory, wait in line, and just deliver the goods and refill the good. And that's like the vision that I have, that I think commerce will be much better in terms of communicating between point to point. And for Thailand, I think I don't want to see another example of big tech or big retailer, only a few of them doing this, and the rest are still manual. I'm envisioning a future where more players could do, at the level of excellence that high tech large retailers can do. Especially now, the way we do our revenue model, we don't force our clients to invest deep into their tech. It actually takes a lot of money to build a tech. So it's very risky for SMEs or medium-sized business to do it on their own, and there's no need. I think the future is more about sharing and partnering with each other. Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, any key takeaways you want to leave our listeners?
Yeah, I guess one thing I'd like to leave is there's tremendous amount of opportunity still in Southeast Asia and in Thailand in particular. And there are great teams working on great new tech that are very excited to try out with a number of new customers. And I think we're on a very exciting pathway towards digital transformation, not just in corporates, but also on the ground. And we're starting that with ViaLink today.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Napat, for being with us here on our podcast episode. I think definitely our listeners are benefiting from this conversation, and we are excited to see what's next for ViaLink. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. And for our listeners, if you want to listen to more insightful conversations such as this one, you can check out our Techsauce Global Podcast series at techsauce.co/en. See you in our next episode. Bye. Techsauce, sparking innovative thoughts.